people now are not looking at technology and personalization as I'm not sure I really need that versus, okay, I know I need it, but now where do I place my bets? How do I get going? I think that's where, once we cross that, that's going to get us into the 4, 5, 6 and beyond.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Builder365 podcast. Jeff Shore here, along with my co-host and very, very good friend, Ryan Taft. How you doing, Ryan?
You know, living the dream, as they say, living the dream.
Indeed, we are. Ryan, we're recording this coming off of our Sales and Marketing Leadership Summit in Nashville. Great fun, of course. What was the highlight for you? Or just give us one of the highlights from our time together in Nashville.
One?
Just one.
Yeah. I mean, because I want to say the Back to the Future skit, of course, but...
Seeing Ryan Taft as Marty McFly, and I mean right down to, the vest, puffy jacket, the white shirt with the black stripes, the red tennis shoe, the whole 9 yards. It was amazing. How long did it take to find that exact outfit?
Actually, it came in a package all together, except the shoes. I had to go get the shoes separately. For sure. But everything else really was packaged up. And so that was fun. But, really the big highlight to me, Jeff, is really the reunion of all of it, right? Getting to see all of the people that we have known, whether they're people we've worked with for a decade or more, or even some of the new folks, and getting to meet some of the folks who are just getting introduced to all things Shore Consulting. So overall, it's just a great time.
It really was. And to complement the Marty McFly there, we had Brian Walter dressed as Doc Brown, and our friends at CMG Home Loans brought in a DeLorean, a replica from the actual movie. So it was really, really cool. We had such a great time at the summit, lots and lots of fun. And one of the people that we love hanging out with at the summit is our good friends at Open Door. Special thanks to our partners in this podcast. Builder365 is powered by Open Door for builders. Easy sales, smooth moves. You can learn more about the work they do to support home builders at opendoor.com/builder365. Ryan, let's talk a little bit. Here's a quick trivia, a little housing trivia for you. Research tells us that the most important room in the home for women is the kitchen. Here's a question. What's the most important room for men?
Well, if they're smart, it's the kitchen.
I am tracking with you. Well, as it so turns out, they must be smart because it is actually the kitchen. That came in at number one.
Well done, gentlemen. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. After you get past the kitchen, now everything changes.
Okay.
But the kitchen is the number one most important room for everybody. It's really, really interesting as we look at that. Why do you think that the motivation is the same, Ryan, for men and women when it comes to their affection for the kitchen?
I don't think so. I think there's probably a little bit of a difference. When I think of what for me, it's food, right? That's where the food is, and so that's the attractor, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's command central for Melissa, right? It's where all things are organized from, all things are seen, right, with an open plan, et cetera. So I think there is a little bit of a difference.
Yeah. There's one other side of it too, and that is that to me the kitchen is almost a medallion for the home. I want that kitchen to be kind of a showpiece for our home. So yeah, I don't mind that it's a beautiful kitchen. Here's what's also, this is interesting. As important as the kitchen is, it might be lessening out just a little bit. And Nolan, I'm going to have you put a chart up on the screen here and see we have an ongoing, interesting, and potentially disturbing trend in America. We eat out a lot. And if you look at that graph, that's stunning. Does that surprise you here, Ryan? I'm sorry, for those of you who can't see the graph, what it says is now we have gone from going back just really not that long ago, 25 years ago, 59% of money we spent was food at home, 41% was out of the house. Now we're at 53% of our food budget is spent outside the house, 47% spent eating at home. Does that surprise you, Ryan?
It actually doesn't. When you look at, especially now, right? If you look at the costs of groceries and inflation and things like that, people are searching for cheaper alternatives. Then you add into
Yeah.
it the complexity of life. I was sold this lie, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I was told technology and everything was going to make everything easier. We're going to get more time, and
Right.
everything would be. And that's just not true, man. I
Yeah.
feel like I. Someone said to me the other day. They said, "Man, I was so bored last week." I'm like, bored? How? I, I haven't been bored since like the Reagan administration. I don't even know how that's possible,
Right.
but we're just so busy that it seems to me that eating out is sort of we're eating no longer is this culinary experience that we have at the family table. And if you do, kudos, keep that up. But most people, it's
Yeah.
sort of a check the box. I ate. Let me get back to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it also explains a lot of the, frankly, financial ruin and credit card debt that we see for the people who eat out without really thinking about how that adds up over time. There's no question about it. Eating at home is substantially less expensive than eating on the road. And
Yeah.
I know, right now, and I confess, Karen and I, this probably, we don't buy a new car every year. We haven't moved in 10 years. We have no plans to.
Right.
But when it comes to eating out, I think that's where we blow the budget. But having said that, a long time ago, when we wanted to get our financial house in order, when we were way in debt, this is the first thing we attacked was our eating out budget, and it made a huge impact on our financial lives.
Absolutely, and this is where we do as well. Being on the road as much as I am, and then Melissa being home while I'm gone. The trade off then is, well, when I come home, when there's one day at home, this is weekends, one day at home, and then one day we go out, and so
Right.
our
Yeah.
food budget is absolutely blown because of that. And to your, again, I don't spend. We don't have debt. We don't have.
Right.
We're not out buying a whole lot of garbage. We like to invest and save our money, but food is where we do spend money.
Yeah, right. The one thing that we have to look at here as it relates to home buyers out there is that these are busy people. They are out and around all the time. That might actually help us in one extent because one of the objections that we tend to get is the old lot size objection. This home site is too small. But if we stop and look at it and go, yeah, we're spending less and less time at home as it is, maybe that's not a big addition as it might have been at some point in the future. So. Very interesting. We'll continue to spot trends that are going on around the industry, and we'll bring them to you here on Builder 365. But now we're going to bring you a great conversation with Alex Hunter. He is an accomplished storyteller. He's a distinguished marketing leader. He is the vice president of marketing at Higharc. And Higharc is a cloud technology company for home builders. And they sort of take all of the complexities and they make them really, really easy. Alex held key roles at tech giants like Apple and Google. He is representing the millennials in a big way. He worked on marketing campaigns for things like the Apple Watch SE and the Google Nest smart displays. Great guy, fascinating conversation. Please welcome Alex Hunter. Well, Alex, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Just for context, give our audience, if you would please, just an overview. Tell us about the service that Higharc provides to home builders, so they have a sense of who it is that you are and what it is that you do.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jeff. Yeah, my name's Alex, and Hierarch is all about helping home builders design, sell, and build faster. And we do that with a single connected platform as a service. We've been around for about 6, 7 years now, and just had some really exciting momentum with a number of production builders across the country. And we had a great show a couple weeks ago in Nashville, and talked to a number of sales and marketing leaders that are also loving what we do, as that's an element of it. But yeah, it's a little bit about Hierarch and kind of what we're up to.
Love it. It's interesting because the service that you provide, there's no question about it. I've talked to many of my clients who have benefited in the way that has made it easier for them to do business and keep track of what is otherwise a very complicated business. But what I really want to focus on today, and this is why I wanted you on the podcast, was the subject of personalized experiences that trickle down all the way to the home buyer. So when I think about what's going on in the United States right now, and actually globally, there's such a trend for personalization and a real attraction to personalized services. So I think about, Indochino making men's custom-made suits for under $500, or Disney Vacation Services building bespoke vacations for people. Talk a little bit about your approach to personalization and the trends that you're seeing in the area of personalization.
Yeah, it's a great call out, Jeff, because I think, and you're kind of some of those brands you're bringing up kind of hit on that point of we've seen that right in our own lives from a consumer standpoint, and that's just working its way across a variety of industries. And so, there's this really interesting McKinsey study from a couple years ago about what buyers expect on personalization. It's about 70%, almost three quarters of folks are looking for that. And millennials like myself, which I'm at the very tail end of that, expect it, right? And may
Yeah.
choose not to go with someone if they don't offer a personalized experience. And so we're just, with the builders that we're working with across the country, we're seeing that request come up more and more as folks are looking to adopt, like, hey, how can I make my product or this community stand out to the buyers with all this increasing competition? And it's in part due to that just consumer trend of all those apps we've been using in our life, Amazon and Best Buy, and even Panera and so on and so forth. Right, those are all working its way into the home building industry, which I think is a really exciting opportunity.
Do you think that especially millennials, you can speak on behalf of the millennials, if you would, please? Are they being literally trained by other organizations to look at it and say, well, the service department at my car dealership can do this, and even Starbucks knows my order. You should be able to figure this out? Does that transfer from one industry into the next, as far as what the expectations are for our customers?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've seen that on both the retail side, working its way into things like you mentioned, automotive, right? And the whole car buying experience. I mean, Carvana and Vroom and services like that came well after we were able to, buy online, pick up store, or customize our computer and so on and so forth. And it really comes down to these consumers, our frame of reference, right, is how they view any new brands or new experiences they encounter. And so one thing I like to say, and it's a little mantra we have internally, is, to builders that we talk to, is like, you are a tech company whether you realize it or not, to millennials. That's just the expectation. And that, of course, as the overarching umbrella, brings that, okay, I'm engaging with this company, this brand. They should be tech forward. How are they going to personalize the experience and really make my journey a delightful one? And some people are taking advantage of that. Others aren't quite yet, but I think we're heading in that direction for sure.
How rate the industry, the home building industry, as you've had the chance to be able to see what builders are doing? You provide solutions to them. How are we doing when it comes to adopting new and very innovative tech solutions? Are we still in the archaic mode, or are we about where you would expect us to be? How are we doing on the rate of adoption?
Yeah, it's a loaded question. So if you see a drop off in your listenership right after my answer, we'll know why.
Okay,
But
there you go. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say we're kind of in the third inning, right? Is what I would say. Construction, home construction as a whole, historical, and there's plenty of studies that back this up about it lags when it comes to that technology adoption. I think that's a relatively, well-known thing and stated fact. And so taking on something like personalization is difficult, right? For builders. And so I'd say in that third, fourth inning, we're starting to see turn a corner. People now are not looking at technology and personalization as I'm not sure I really need that, versus, okay, I know I need it, but now where do I place my bets? How do I get going? I think that's where once we cross that, that's going to get us into the 4, 5, 6, and beyond.
But it does seem to me that the demand is going to lead the way rather than the availability. It is what customers are going to need to see. So, we work with builders that they still think having a USB port in an outlet is cutting edge technology out there. You can't even tell them that USB-C exists. It'll just blow their mind. But when you look at home automation, it seems to me this should be a playground for builders because there are so many opportunities out there. And I wonder if it's the complexity more than anything else of introducing these things that makes builders resistant. What is your experience there?
Yeah. I mean, are you talking smart home side specifically?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Anything having to do with home tech and smart homes. Yeah.
Yeah. Smart home tech, it's a really interesting one because it's definitely a category. And we had a conference a couple months ago, the housing transformation summit, where one of our folks, Connor, talked about this and the challenges that smart tech adoption really presents to builders. And it's because you got these multiple ecosystems. You've got Alexa, you've got Apple and HomeKit, you've got Google, and you got all these different manufacturers. And it's like, how, what money can I actually make there? I think is a question that builders often kind of face, right? But yes, when you offer an option like smart home or home automation tech, where a buyer could truly personalize the home that they walk into on day one, it's a bit of a complicated mess. And I think part of it is because it's an afterthought. They don't start at the plan level, right? When it comes to designing the community, or the home plan. And you got third party integrators that you have to work with all the time. But there's a few builders, I think, Abrazo Homes and Landsea are really embracing that personalization of smart home tech for their builders up front, and they're really making it a part of their experience versus, "Oh, if I can't make enough margin on it, I'm not really gonna offer it."
Yeah.
But,
But it really could be a differentiating factor there. But I
for
think to your
sure.
point, like I would love to do more improvements in my own home. The problem is the platforms. I'm an Apple guy. I know how my iPad works, but not everything syncs, right? So when you look at your different systems, they don't all talk. Is there? I had read, I don't know, last year sometime, about all of the different platforms trying to find a common language so that you
Yeah.
could be able to work across platforms. Is there progress on that?
Yeah, it's definitely, it was an exciting thing that got on the radar a couple years ago, right? When I during my time back at well, yeah, I've been on both sides of the spectrum with both Google and Apple. There was always this like friction of device compatibility, and so on and so forth. And my wife has definitely given me a hard time because I had Alexa when it first came out, and then I went to work for Google. I got rid of all my Amazon devices and got Google Assistant, and then I went back to Apple, and then I got rid of all my Google devices and added Siri. And she was like, "Alex, I don't know what to yell hey at,
Right.
and it's driving me nuts." And so I think a lot of consumers feel the same way. Like, what do
Right.
I, well, where do I start with all these three? But
Yeah.
that shared language between devices is continuing to make progress. So whatever ecosystem you pick, revolving around just one, it's going to come about. But we've definitely seen that start to take shape, and like manufacturers like Philips, right, and others are having forward compatible devices that they're launching. That even if you're going to go in and retrofit your home, you shouldn't have a problem having it work with whether you have Siri, Alexa, or the Google Assistant in your house.
Do you have some favorite home tech?
Oh man, like you. I'm a big HomeKit fanboy. Like, I got all my stuff in one app, and so I think bubble. For me, security's always been like the core staple, and so the Yale locks I would always high recommend. Schlage just came out with one where you can actually use your watch to bump into your, tap to get into your house, which makes me want to go out and spend $300 just to switch smart door locks, which my wife would be like, I don't understand, but it's 1 second faster for me to do that. Um, so I think those are definitely 2, and then Philips Hue. I mean, from a lighting standpoint, that's something a lot you can just go out and start tomorrow, and so it's really fun at the holidays to set all the different colors and everything.
Right, right. Yeah, I love my Wi-Fi enabled locks, and I travel a lot, so it's nice to know, if I'm gone, I want to check and see if the house is locked up. If I've got somebody coming over to the house, I can unlock it for them. It is it's
So
fantastic.
convenient, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I have not invested in, and I saw this at the Builder show several years ago, was a sensor pad that goes under the carpet next to your bed. And when you step on it in the middle of the night, it lights up your baseboards all the way from your bed to your toilet. And as somebody who suffered a broken toe in the middle of the night, I can just tell you right now that that is one. I don't know why it doesn't exist in my home yet.
Yeah,
I've got to put
that
that in there. But
I would buy that right now, and I think those are some of those, like, bespoke experiences that,
yeah,
whether it's
yeah.
post-purchase or a builder can offer, because I don't think, I think personalization is kinda going ba that touching on that topic for a second, I would love for the devices to respond to me as I navigate around the house. I don't We're not even
Yeah.
there yet on that, right? And so stuff like that is
Okay, so
along
let's
those
let's
lines.
talk about tech learning, and we'll bring AI into the conversation here as well, because you're right. I mean, ultimately, the best way to do that is to have a robot follow me around the house, see the way that I live, and then come along and say, well, what you really need is a sensor under the carpet for when you get up in the middle of the night.
Yep,
But
yep.
when you are thinking about the evolution of AI, how do you see that fitting into the discussion specifically on personalization? I mean, that's it seems to
Yeah.
me that question will evolve, but the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think AI is really going to really unlock personalization for both builders and businesses across the spectrum, right? Because as you feed these models your information, right, when you're logged in, it it's contextual, right? And I've seen that my own, just as I continue to use ChatGPT on a regular basis. I don't have to go remember that question I asked it 3 weeks ago. It has that background, and so I think that's going to just enable these really incredible experiences. I think the challenge really comes down to, like, privacy, right? And what you're willing to kind of provide and give up, and share with these models. But we've seen some great progress on our side, with Higharc as well, in terms of kind of leveraging that technology to just speed up things that I was wanted to do, on a regular basis, or
Give us an example. Give us one way that you guys have figured out how to speed things up and be able to streamline an otherwise complicated process.
yeah, it's this idea of like a co-pilot, right? And so when I'm going through and, like, designing a home, there's certain things that I need to kind of put in place. And so rooms, for example, right? Every home, you generally kind of do a layout of the first floor, and so we'll have this generative AI or generative modeling that allows me to, like, do it 10x faster, and it kind of it auto builds that layout. And so while I think it's a little bit of a stretch on personalization, the idea is that we've really been able to start tapping into the power of that generative design and AI to just accelerate workflows that people have had to do for years or decades, very very manually. And so that's been a big win for us, that our customers have been able to take advantage of as well. So I think that's a good
But
example.
you have to have something like that if you're going to personalize, because otherwise, I think most builders look at it and say personalization equals complexity, and complexity threatens quality and
Yeah,
efficiency, and a lack of quality and efficiency hurts my bottom line. So if we can't connect those dots, we're going to have a problem. If you
right.
were starting Alex Hunter Homes tomorrow, and I gave you three different ways to do this, one is build a home that was like technically tricked out,
Oh yeah,
and then you'd have to sell the heck out of it because you're going to have to charge a lot of money here because everything's already included.
right.
Option two is to say, I've got three tech packages for you. Pick one, and we're going to build it efficiently. Or option three, here's the base price, and here's 1,000 different personalization options on it. How would you approach this?
Yeah, oof, that's a good question. I would go route number 2, and,
Mm-hmm.
without giving you the "Who Wants to Be a Millionaire" answer, the third one's very daunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
Right.
this
Right.
idea. It reminds me of, like, man, when I had a ton of time, and Dell first came out, I could, like, pick every different component in my computer.
Right. Right.
Sure. I'd be happy to do that. But that's the idea of having to pick all these different items for my home would just like you have cognitive overload is what I like to
Right.
call it, right?
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I think this select choice is this perfect middle ground. And we did this with how we sold product, to at Apple, and I think there's a
Mhm.
number of builders that are doing this as well. But this idea of packages and really curating the experience while it can still feel personalized, I think is a really powerful value proposition because ultimately you're eliminating friction, yet you're giving this buyer this sense of I'm still getting to choose my own adventure. I think car
Right.
manufacturers have done this really well, and they've,
I think they have
maybe it's
too.
not
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
options and maybe it's like
Right.
10 packages now, but that's how if Alex Hunter Homes was in existence, I spent a lot of time understanding my customers, knowing what they want, and going route number two. That's a fun question though.
It's a fascinating conversation, and I'd love to be able to play this back 3 years from now and see where we're at because things are changing that quickly. How can people learn more about Higharc, Alex?
Yeah. You can visit us online at hierarch.com. Definitely welcome to connect with a member of our team. We'd love to have a chat with you. But yeah, definitely check the website or follow us on LinkedIn. We're always posting some fun and helpful content for sales and marketing folks and builders alike to take a look at.
Love it. Well, it's fascinating stuff. It's cutting edge. It sounds like it's fun to be you. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, Alex.
You bet. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Well, there you go, Ryan. And Alex is all about his smart home. He's not the only person. You and I have had this conversation before. That's one of the things that you really get a kick out of is smartifying your home. Tell us about that.
I've always been interested in this, and um, again, if you go back to my early childhood, there was a couple of traumatic things that happened that caused me to be a little concerned about kind of like home safety. One is I remember the Night Stalker. In the 80s was had a victim that was 20 minutes from my house. My dad had been barricaded in our garage and held by knife point and was forced to empty out our house when I was in 8th grade. So I've always been interested in home safety. And so it started there for me with cameras, right? Just being able to have eyes on, especially because I travel for a living, to be able to know what's going on. So literally there's not 1 inch of my property that I can't see what's going on. And I love having that automation. Then there's the convenience factor for me too, Jeff, like to be able to not have to get out of bed to shut the light off that I forgot. Like I love that. I love that my home alarm system goes on automatically at 10:30 every single night. My garage door automatically shuts if I accidentally leave it open at a certain time. So yeah, the easier I can make my life and not have to think about things, the better. So I'm all in on home automation without a question.
Yeah, I think that is the to me the biggest benefit of all kinds of tech is to free up mental space. So I don't have to think about things that I otherwise would have to look at. I'm not nearly as advanced as you are, but there are things that I look at and I go, it is really nice to know that I can lock and unlock my doors without having to be close by in order to do it. I'm really interested in kind of what happens next in some of the new and innovative stuff that's still coming down the pike because and you heard Alex talk about this. We're still pretty behind as an industry into what's going to happen. But I think it's got to happen through the new home industry. Retrofitting older homes way more difficult than building it that way in the first place. So kudos to those builders who are on the cutting edge of building very, very smart homes. Well, there you have it, everybody. Another episode of the Builder 365 podcast. Always good spending time with you. Good spending time with you, Ryan. I enjoyed the conversation. As always, please, please, please share, share, share. Send a social media link. Let people know about the Builder 365 podcast. We sure appreciated that. Until next time, take care. Go change the world.